Hey guys, good morning. I got a little bit much light going on. I guess we'll just look like we're on the sun this morning. Happy Wednesday. So I get a lot of you asking me how to know when I'm going to go live. I think just by good reference, usually Wednesday morning. I strive, if I don't go Wednesday, I'll try and post something somewhere that we're going live on Friday. If you don't follow my Instagram or my Facebook business pages, then make sure to jump on over and follow those as well, because I do post there kind of some of when I'm going live, but there's no central place to really post it. Hey guys, good morning. Hi from Cali. It's super early out there. You must be getting ready for work, Cynthia. So I think I had something genius I was going to share this morning. No, I don't. Crap. The dress she picked out to be buried in is kind of older and ready. I don't think it's going to be the most appropriate. Will she haunt me ever if I change it? No, probably not. But you might be able to find a compromise when it comes to a burial outfit. You could have on what she wants, but maybe put a sweater over it or something like that. Congratulations, Mike. Today is a big day. That is awesome. You're graduating. Hawaii guy. Goodness, get some sleep. Why are you up so early? So Lottie Wilcox sent me some, Lottie sent me some questions on supplies. Is there a wholesale company in certain cities that the funeral home can call for an order and ship? How often do funeral homes order? So it depends on the funeral home. Some funeral homes keep some of the more requested caskets and urns and things in stock. Sometimes you get a discount if you order in bulk. So you can order like maybe with other funeral homes in the area. Say, hey, let's order, drop ship 12 of these caskets and we can each store a few and then call each other if we need them. So there's a few different ways you can do casket and urn and such ordering. There are typically within an hour or two of many places a casket company that you typically use. Some people don't use the large like Batesville and Aurora and everyone. They don't use those. They use like a smaller local casket company for their caskets. But not all casket companies specialize in wood and metal. Some are just woodworking shops and some are just metal shops. So it depends on what you need and want in your area. Typically, you can get next day delivery from most casket companies on, their caskets if it's a widely used one. Same with urns. Urns typically take longer, and especially if you want them engraved, they take longer. Does one company supply all the products? For example, fluid, makeup, plugs, etc. So there's a lot of different companies that do like printed material, and then they also have other sundry items like, you may get one company that does bookmarks and they do eye caps and such, because they found that if you offer more along one line, more people will buy from one place. And so you will get places that do offer a lot of funeral supplies. So it's funeral supply companies. Fluids come from a fluid company, and they often will have all of their sundry items as well. Anything for prep room, plastic garments, eye caps, mouth warmers, all the instruments, aneurysm hooks and trocars and such. So you will find that they do kind of bulk group all of the different types of things that they sell, because like any business, if you have a store that just sells one item, you're often going to not succeed. Whereas if you have one item, but then you have all these other items that go along with that kind of business, you're going to get more sales, more return. It's more of a one-stop shopping. So I lost my baby at 12 weeks 7 years ago and chose cremation. When we received the remains back, there seemed to be a lot for something so small. Would my baby have been in a multiple cremation? So typically, was it a 12-week-old full-term child, or was it a 12-week gestation baby, Jody? Awesome, Ben Franklin's grave. That's what I'm hoping. I go to some areas and I look up like graves around, and some places don't have anybody that I even know. So if I don't know them, I figure most people, the general population may not know. So a 12-week gestation baby is probably going to yield 2 to 3 tablespoons sometimes of cremated remains. So how much did you receive back in terms of quantity? Chloe's working at the funeral home. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So Chloe's a young viewer. So encouraging of her. It's awesome. Hey, Africa. I'm an 11th grader in high school. How do I become a funeral director or embalmer? You need to jump in and start shadowing, and you need to go, hang out with the funeral director for a day and see actually what happens. Honest to goodness, 85%, if not more, of what we do, a person visiting a funeral or just walking through the process probably doesn't see. You don't see all the paperwork, phone calls, logistics, arranging, car washing, weed pulling, removals, all those things you don't see on the front side typically. So you need to actually see what a life and day of a funeral director is looking like, or a week of, because once you get a full picture, you may be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So you need to get a full exposure before you really dive in. And then you go prerequisite classes, apprenticeship, mortuary school, state boards, national boards, and you're licensed. And then you're always learning, because just after that, you don't know everything. Most of this business is hands-on learning. So Jody, it's possible. So it depends too on the crematory, whether they, what the child was in, how hot of a burn. Sometimes if the heat is not at a certain level, it doesn't burn off like the little box that maybe the person is in. And so you might get a little more actual ash than cremated remains if the heat is not hot enough to burn off the box, because typically when a person is cremated, the heat is so hot that all of the box is burned away. It's no boxes with that cremated remains. It's not the ash from it. It's just the cremated remains. So that might have been a little bit of it. I've had 3 corneal transplants, and I cannot thank the families enough. Discuss with your families. No, donation and gifts are very important. It's not for everybody, though. You have to feel comfortable with what they're doing to your loved one to make that donation and gift. And it doesn't always sit well with families when, at that time that they're approached, and that when they're hurting and when they're in this loss moment, they don't want to give up any part of their loved one. It has nothing to do with us. Before the family gets to us, typically they've already had that discussion with the donation organization. So, it is wonderful to give a gift. It is wonderful to donate, but it's not for everybody. And there is a huge lack of, donation because of these many reasons. But it's something that, it's not up to us, really. Could I go and do a day at a funeral home to see if I like it? Yes, you just have to find a funeral home who's going to allow you to. There's a lot of sensitive information, a lot of sensitive things that you see. And so there's a lot of areas that they may not let you into, and it depends on where you are in the process. If somebody came to me and was already signed up for school, they had been doing their prereqs, and they wanted to get a little better, idea of the full rounded picture, I don't think I would hesitate. If somebody just walked through the door and said, hey, I want to shadow you for a day, and they have no context, they have no full interest, then I'm going to draw a line. They're not sitting in with me on arrangements. They're not helping out with bodies or in the prep room at all. Maybe they can just stand in a suit and watch what I do at a funeral and visitation, and maybe some of the more downscale things that we do. But I'm very protective of the families I serve and of the people I take care of. So I'm not going to just let anybody in with me, and that's just me. So you're going to get a lot of different response from people. Hey, David. I have considered writing a book. I think I'm going to, that's my 2020 agenda, is hopefully writing a book. I kind of have an idea and a layout, and I even have a cover visually in my head now. So I'm going to try and work on that. It's finding time and, get the creative juices going. Our family does full body donations to the World Body Program, to Baylor School of Medicine here in Houston. So they can use to teach doctor nurses and flight nurses, which is awesome. But I've always said, when it comes to medical donation, I just want people to be educated. It's a very romanticized version of thinking I'm going to donate my body and they're going to find a cure for something. That's not what they just use body donation for. Body donation is used for, they shoot bullets into bodies that are donated at many places to see trajectory angles. And, you sometimes are disarticulated and sent to different areas to study ear, nose, throat, to study tendon usage and all these things. So get a full picture so you're comfortable, so there's no surprises to your family later as to what is actually done with a body when donated at the place you are donating to. So it's not always this on a movie version of it. So I'm not speaking pro or con. I am speaking, you need to educate and you need to know the full picture and know what you're signing and know what all the logistics are on it. How old am I? I'm 41. No one wants to let you shadow, and that's something you may find, because there are laws in some states that are very, very lockdown, that they won't let people in. My recommendation, honey gets the bee, is ask a funeral director if you can just take them to breakfast. Can I have a conversation with you about what you do? Can we go to breakfast? Can I just have coffee with you one day? Set up an appointment for that. Make a relationship. Once you have a established relationship, then they may allow you, once they understand your heart and your desire, to then come in for maybe more, to give you a tour of the funeral home, to let you see more. But don't just jump in the deep end. Invite them to breakfast, coffee, something. That's my number one thing. You can put what you want to do with your body when donating in your will. Your will is not read until far after your body has been cared for. So wills are not really the best thing to put your wishes with your body, because honest to goodness, they are not often read at the time of death. It's not like in a movie where you die and your family gathers the next day to read your will at a big thing. That's not how wills work. And if you put in your will that you want to be cremated, your family does not have to follow that wish in almost every state. Good morning, Kari. Why do funeral homes that pick up bodies destroy the prescription drugs as to donating them to people who need them? It's not how medicine works. You can't just donate them to somebody else, because we're not a pharmacy. So they can't just go back to the pharmacy to then be redistributed, because no one knows that if in the care of that person, they were not tampered with. So yes, they have to be disposed of, and they need to be disposed of correctly, not just flushed down the drain. Thanks, F. Gamble, that I look great for 41. There's that question. We've got more questions. How do you deal with families who have difficult personalities? personalities are very amplified when someone dies. You take a personality and add a little fuel to it with emotion, and they're very amplified. A lot of patience, and that's why when you're first getting into this business as a licensed person, you don't always handle families as well as you can maybe after years of working with people, because you get rubbed the wrong way really quickly by some personalities. When someone is very dominant, where they believe they know everything because they buried someone 20 years ago, and so they want to instruct the family in arrangements when they keep saying things that are incorrect, and you have to then correct them, and you have to do it in a way that you're not pissing them off by basically telling them they don't know anything. So that is one personality that's really hard, no matter how much time, but you almost have to find a little humor in it so that you don't get pissed about someone trying to basically hijack your arrangement with incorrect information. So there's a lot of personalities that are hard. Some of them I just see as challenges, and I love that. Kind of like the old people who are a little gruff, and they just are, I don't need any of this, or I don't need any of that. Rah, rah, rah. By the end, I'm getting a hug out of them. That's like my goal. I just see it as a little bit of a challenge that I'm going to kind of connect with them in a way that they really don't want to be. I think people come into a funeral home sometimes with a chip on their shoulder, and they want to just almost battle against you because of whatever we've been projected in the media, or I'm not letting this person take advantage of me, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. And so by connecting with them on a level that is not business, I feel like I break down a little bit of that wall and allow them to see that I want to care for them as a person and not as a business venture. And so being able to do that and kind of establish a relationship is my way of doing that, and I love doing that. Do you think it's going to be harder down the road to make a living as a mortician? I think the way that a mortician or a funeral director makes a living is going to change. It has to change. It has to evolve. You can't just do the same thing for 200 years and it be the same. It's never, no business is like that. Everything has to evolve. And that's where this business is in a slow progression of evolving, where we're not just, you come in, we schedule your visitation one day, service the next day, and burial. That day has gone. That is still something that some people would like to do, but instead of just one option on the table, there are now 100 different options. And so we have to more communicate with the family and figure out how we can best match them up to what they might want to do, and discuss possibilities with them and help them on a new path, rather than order take and either we're involved because it's a burial or we cut ourselves out because it's a cremation. We have to be more involved, and we have to maintain during the whole process our care and our attentiveness, rather than just saying we don't want to be part of it because it's a cremation, because we don't think there's any money in it, I guess. So as a funeral director, that role is going to change, and making arrangements as a person who's lost someone is going to change. I think the whole business is going to evolve more to a across the board pricing, and that's, you're going to have more of a funeral doula partner that's walking with you rather than the funeral director and such. Does that make any sense? I just, did I hear earlier that wood coffins do not have a good seal? There's no seal on a wood coffin. You can't put a seal on a wooden coffin because wood warps, and wood, it swells and it contracts and swells and contracts. So you can't have a seal that would never hold. Are there any family members you couldn't do, or would you want to take care of everyone? That's a great question, but I really don't know. I think, I can't fathom having, if the time came, to take care of my children or my husband, but I think those are in the moment. I feel like ahead I can think about my grandparents dying and the fact that I was going to take care of them. Like they were in their 90s. It was an aged progressive thought that I knew that was coming. When my niece died, I was so on autopilot. I don't even know if I made the choice. I just did. With so many people in my life, I know I want to do because that's in my being. But there's family members I don't want to think about that point, because why would we sit and think about people dying in our lives, I guess, and that would be what I would be doing. So just like everybody else, you avoid those thoughts. And when the time comes, I'll make those decisions. Is there a course on grief counseling alone? Yes. So there's multiple courses on grief counseling. You can become an aftercare grief therapist person. A lot of it is, if you're going to give counseling, you have to have a degree. So it's not just like one class, it's more you need a degree and then you specialize, just like within a lot of degrees. Is there a special way you embalm a... Okay, Steve. If one should pass away in the middle of the night, would direct cremation happen right away? And I don't think I've answered these, or the next day. So direct cremation, you have to get a doctor's signature on the death certificate and a medical examiner's signature. So it is a process. In some states, you have to wait, or in some countries, you have to wait like a week even before cremation can take place. It's not a reversible process. So you have to go down certain steps, and you have to get certain certification or, certificates and things signed, because once it takes place, you can't ever go back. Oh yes, I'm coming to Bromley in the UK. I will maybe try and schedule a coffee meet or a pint meet or something while I'm over in Bromley. So, is there such a thing as a line casket for those who may have died contaminated? Yes, there are special lined caskets. I'll have to do a video on that. Let's see, we are still doing good on time. I feel like I've been rolling. Do you have to take into consideration medications someone was on before embalming? Any drug interactions? So a lot of times, Catherine, we don't know what someone was on. We bring someone into our care, sometimes middle of the night, sometimes right from the hospital. So unless we have a discussion with the family about medications and such, we typically don't know some of those things. There's not a lot we can do at that point, depending, on a lot of medications that people are on. We just have to watch the body react to what we're doing and alter what we're doing in that moment. Because you could take two people, same age, same build, same medical history, same everything, and they could react differently to the embalming process. So we just have to read the body as it's happening. And we might have somebody who embalms beautifully. We go look at them the next day and they're completely loosey-goosey, decomposing, no idea why. And it could be because of a medication or a lifestyle of some sort. So there's so many factors that factor in that we just have to keep adjusting what we're doing based on the results that we're getting back. The proper way to dispose of medications. Flushing is not good. Take them to a location. Typically your police department or fire department will have a collection, and then they will then take them for disposal. My brother died of a heart attack at 42. He had an autopsy. Oh, there's more to the question coming. How do I want to be put to rest? I talked about this before. Right now I'm in the natural burial. Make sure I'm super dead, like a couple days dead, and then go ahead and bury me right into the ground. How would you want to be in his casket? He had a plastic-like suit under his clothing. Yes, that is called a unional or coverall. It is a plastic garment that is put under to help from leaking. And anything that may happen during the viewing, because sometimes the incisions will leak, especially if someone is an organ tissue donor. They will be in plastics because they have taken skin off the body, and there's no way we can stop those areas from leaking fully. So that person is automatically put into some type of a plastic undergarment under their suit. So yes, it gives a visual of being bulky or of there being, puffiness or plastic weirdness, but it's because we're trying to keep that person from having any leakage or smells or anything during the viewing. Do you major in something before coming a funeral director? No, CNAs, it's so funny, Kayla. CNA, any type of nursing seems like a very common transfer over. I get a lot of nurses on YouTube that tell me that they want to become funeral directors because a lot of them say, I wanted to be funeral director. My family wasn't really supportive, or I didn't feel like I could do that. And so I went down the nursing profession. And then once they're in the nursing profession, they've maybe been around death a little more and found an ease and a comfort in that area and are drawn even more to the funeral directing. So then they transfer over to funeral directing. So you do not have to have any specific degree in most states. Some do require a bachelor's degree, but you can get that bachelor's degree with mortuary school. So you're going to, essentially your prereqs that you take are almost enough for like an associate. So a lot of people will get an associate's at a community college and then transfer into the mortuary science program where they get another associate's in mortuary science. I have a bachelor's in psychology and then went and got my bachelor's in mortuary science, but that was just my path. So you can get a variation of all different things. A lot of degrees can help you in the business if you want to more run a business and be on, the backside of things logistically. A business degree would help you. Don't care for the business side of things. I'm not a numbers person. I'm not that's just not my forte in this world. That's what my husband's built for. And that's why we yin and yang, I think, with some of that. Well, he might not have been leaking. So he might not have smelled bad because of embalming fluid. He might have just smelled. Somebody who's been autopsied has a very distinct smell. It's often because they're kept in a cooler, and inside that cooler are other bodies that are sometimes very heavily decomposed, or they're maybe weeks old, or they may be covered in a lot of blood. And that smell of blood is very strong and distinctive and permeates. And so a cooler at a medical examiner or coroner's place has a very distinct odor, and that odor sticks almost to somebody who's been autopsied when you get their body. And they always smell like that smell. It's just very distinct. It's very, once you smell it, it's very recognizable, just like decomp, I guess. So can caskets be reused? No, it's a law that we cannot reuse caskets. So once somebody has been in a casket, we are not to reuse that casket unless it's a rental and the interior is one-time use. So then the person, only the parts that they touch is only a one-time use, and just the shell is reused. Hey, David. Yeah, you've been asking if you could join live once. Were you ever nervous or anxious being in that setting? I'm sure I was. It's so funny going back to the beginning because that's hundreds of bodies ago in the prep room. It's hundreds of families ago, quite possibly thousands. I don't even know at this point. It's hard to remember back. There's ones that I remember specifically, but I know that I'm always a little anxious when a body is brought in a body bag that I have to unzip because you don't quite know what's going to be inside. And so a lot of funeral directors, and I just watched somebody do this the other day, you bring the zipper all the way to the foot and you start with the foot unzipping up. And so you're slowly looking at what you're going to be caring for in terms of damage and trauma and such. So I would say that's one time that I still am a little anxious. When you get a child, it's always, how am I going to react to this, and getting a little nervous beforehand. Walking into some arrangements that, might be hard with, teen deaths or any accidents or things that are traumatic. You take an extra breath. I say a little prayer. I do whatever I can, and then you go in. So those always, take a moment. I'll do, let's see, 2 more questions. Ever lost control of a beer? Happened to us yesterday. The floor in the church was sloped. Once it started rolling, it was hard to stop. Yeah, I haven't, but some churches where I struggle, there's times when the person on the other end will turn and walk backwards if I am on the, pushing end. And it is a big thing to me. I don't look like I'm giving a lot of force, but it is an awkward position to push from your midsection forward, and especially in some of those churches up hills when it's just you pushing. I almost passed out one time because I was trying to give so much effort without showing effort. And we were going uphill with a super heavy casket, and it was just me on the one end, and the guy on the other end wasn't really helping. And I thought I was going to pass out. I got really weak, lightheaded, and my breath was gone. It was really bad, but you don't want to show that it's that bad. I did have once a beer crush the top of my foot. I still think it cracked a bone, but it hurt for years because we went up over a doorstop, and my foot was just up and under, and the thing smashed right down on top with a really heavy casket on it. So, thanks, Nancy, for coming by. And yes, I'm terrified of dying. I get asked that question all the time. Yeah, I'm horribly terrified of dying, which is a much deeper question, I guess. Every crematory I've ever encountered has an identification disc in the urn. Some put it in with the cremated remains, like into the retort, and some hang it outside the retort. There should have been some kind of a identification something in the urn. But if they transferred his cremated remains into an urn, and it wasn't in the original container, they might have disposed of it, or it might be inside with the cremated remains that you don't see it. So thanks. Is it Devi? My new setup. I'm playing around with some things. I have something coming soon. I'm trying to get crafty to make for my coffee with Kari session. So more to come. So thank you guys. I'm working on doing a video with my husband, as I've promised. Let me know if there's questions you want to know about him, about us, about life as a funeral director, and your spouse. So send those to me at Kari@KariNorthey.com, or post them in comments. I'll try and gather some questions together for our chat session. We got to find time when he's here, I'm here, the kids aren't up. So that's the challenge right now. So thank you guys. Cheers. Yeah. Happy morning coffee. My love you, Mom, which I bought for myself because I like the mug. So bye guys. I'll see you next week.